Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Love Fruit podcast. And today we're joined by another fantastic guest, and that's Matt Bennett from Raw Intuition or myrawintuition.com. And let me tell you a little bit about Matt. He's been a raw vegan since 2011. He's a holistic health educator with a passionate focus on detoxification and raw living foods. And we're going to get into more of his story in this podcast, and you might follow him, Raw Intuition, I believe, on Instagram and YouTube and other places. So really looking forward to hearing more. And just to let you know, if you want to sign up for notifications to hear about the future updates of this podcast, you can go to fruitfest.co.uk. And I do want to just quickly say that the UK Fruit Fest for this year, 2021, will take place from July the 29th to August the 6th. So for those of you that didn't know that, you can go to fruitfest.co.uk and find out more information about our festival as well. But Matt, thank you very much for joining us today. And is there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself in introduction?
Well, thank you first of all for having me on the podcast. I enjoy listening to all your other episodes. And yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered it. Grew up in a small town in Minnesota in the U.S. and, basically grew up like most people with, standard American lifestyle. And yeah, we can get into how that all transformed into where I am today. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
And you're still in Minnesota today?
Yeah, lived here my whole life. Recently been giving some serious consideration to finding a place to live in Florida or another southern state in the U.S. where I have a little warmer weather. I've had a few too many snowy winters here in Minnesota, so I'm ready for a change.
Yeah, excellent. So you're mentioning that you didn't start off on an alternative diet. So how did that all change? I'm guessing it was kind of a standard American diet growing up. Is that what it looked like?
Yeah, standard American. A lot of frozen pizzas, a lot of microwave dinners. If I ate vegetables, it was usually out of a can or a bag where you microwave it. I will say my mom did make us a lot of home cooked meals, so it was it was kind of based around more wholesome standard American foods, but definitely heavy in animal products, heavy in dairy, processed foods a lot, especially as I got into college. I really was heavy on pizza and tacos and soda. So, but I will say that growing up, I always had kind of a draw towards being healthy. So I would get like vitamin waters because I thought those were really healthy for you. I would get like V8 juice with or any of the juices on the shelf that had like high praise for like vitamin C or it promoted all these different vitamins that it had in there. So I also looked for like wheat bread instead of white bread, things like that. So I was always kind of in that mindset where I wanted to be healthy. I did grow up with a lot of health conditions, eczema since I was, a baby. My parents would wrap me in warm, wet washcloths with cortisol cream on my skin. For years, they did that until a pharmacist told them that they need to stop doing that. So it was actually the doctor that kept saying, yeah, keep doing it. But then the pharmacist that she was filling the prescription with told her to stop doing it because it was going to really have some negative health effects later down the line. So I'm thankful that he spoke up. And then I had asthma growing up. So that was an issue for me really up until I got into this lifestyle that it really kind of just went away. So I grew up playing sports, soccer, golf, football, basketball, all those things. And yeah, so it wasn't until I got into college where, and really towards the end of high school. So there was a lot of different things that kind of went into me finding this lifestyle. So it wasn't just one thing, but the first thing that I can really think of that got me on more of it wasn't necessarily the path of like truth seeking, but I started to lose my hair in my late teenage years. And that really scared me, really affected me mentally. I was desperate to not lose my hair. So I was like telling myself, I'm not going to let this happen. So I went on the internet, and in its early days, back when you had to like log in to the telephone through the phone line. I guess people probably still do that today, but so I got online, started looking up foods, because I did have that connection where what you eat has an effect on your body. So I started looking up foods that stopped hair loss and prevented hair loss and promoted hair growth. And I came up with a lot of protein, a lot of meat, a lot of dairy, eggs, but also it said leafy greens like spinach. Pretty much spinach was the big thing that I got from that in those searches. So I started eating a lot of additional protein. I was already eating a high protein diet, I would say, a lot of meat and eggs, and cheese and milk. I remember I would drink like a quart of milk on my break at work, because I thought it was a health food. I always kind of looked at the nutrition label, but kind of just the basics, the protein, the calcium, things like that. And so I was always seeking out the protein because that's just the culture we live in, I guess. And so, yeah, I started making salads actually in college. Massive spinach salads, but they had, a lot of cheese, a lot of dairy product, or a lot of meat, chicken especially. I went through a lot of chicken in college. It's crazy. And I actually worked in a meat department at that time. So, so I would always get I would take home like the week-old steaks and all that stuff for cheap. And so I thought I was, living the good life, eating the good diet, and I was trying to stop my hair loss. And so it didn't work. I'll give you that. Yeah, spoiler alert, but it didn't work out. But the thing is that the positive thing that came from it, I think, is that it got me into a habit of eating salads. And so I really ate a lot of salads in college. My friends and my roommates would always give me a hard time and call me Mr. Healthy, in like a derogatory way.
I was actually going to ask, like, did you ever get into drinking, partying, drugs,
Oh
all
yeah,
that stuff?
oh yeah, big time. I was big time drinker. I was kind of a more shy kid growing up.
What college was it you were at? Sorry.
I went to Winona State in Minnesota.
Right.
So, yep, state college. And yeah, alcohol was my gateway to developing relationships with people.
Right.
I just found it kind of difficult to build relationships, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until I started drinking in high school that I really started to make more friends, and it just helped me so much relieve anxiety and mental chatter.
I never drank alcohol that much, but I was always amazed by how easier it was to speak to people when you've had a drink. Like, it's so,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's just like it's almost like the negative voice in your head or something just disappears or something.
Exactly. Yeah, it just kind of quiets the mind, kind of, and then it just allows you to to just, let down your walls a little bit. And
Yeah, yeah.
so, yeah, so it was just my way of building relationships. And so I made some of my best friends, through partying and also sports. But it's just one of those things where it was a crutch for me that through high school and through college. College, I loved to go to the bars. I loved to party, play beer pong. That was my favorite game. And it's what, I don't know if you know what beer pong is.
No, I was going to ask, what is it?
Okay, so you set up, it's like you put up 10 Dixie red plastic cups, and then you have a ping pong ball, and you fill all the cups with beer, and then you have it on two sides of a table. So it's like bowling pins on each side of the table, and you throw the ping pong ball, and it's usually one or two people on each team. And when you make it in their cup, they have to drink the cup. And so whoever makes all the cups first wins. So
Right. Cool.
yeah, so it was fun. But now, and then as I got into this lifestyle, and not quite fully into it, but I was transitioning, I started bringing like kombucha, and I would like juice, and then I would bring juice and I would play with juice. And so I had kind of an interesting transition that way, where I was like getting more towards like understanding health and wanting to be healthy, but I still didn't want to give up some of those old habits and relationships. So yeah, again, my college friends, and it's kind of funny. I did get a little pushback as I was starting to eat healthier, or like they would kind of poke fun, but I never ran into really any people where I hear of some people where it just ruins relationships. People get into arguments about that. For me, it was fairly mild. My friends were pretty supportive, and they would give me a hard time sometimes, but it was in good fun. They didn't mean anything bad by it. So yeah, and let's see. So through college, I was still researching and doing my best. I actually wound up, okay, so before college, because I was in such a depression and like just so worried about the hair thing. I don't think anybody saw me without a hat for like 2 years straight, at least, or more. And then I actually had a hair transplant that I tried right before I went. It was between my second and third year of college. And so I had a surgery where they take the follicles from the back of your head and try and put them up where you're thinning. Now, that was an ordeal. If I could go back, I wouldn't have done it again if I knew what I knew now. But
there seems to be a lot of people doing that now. I don't know if they've perfected the technique or something. I guess it was different back then, but
right, yeah, it's probably a lot better today than it was back then. But I didn't get out of it what they kind of made me believe I was going to get out of it, so I felt a little cheated. But it's just a lesson in learning. And so yeah, let's see. So then it wasn't until I was 25, so I was out of college, that I came across, somewhere between graduating college and when I was 25, I came across Dan McDonald on YouTube. And so I started learning from him just about raw foods and just about detoxification, and he's such like a inspirational speaker. I was just so drawn to him. And so he introduced me to Robert Morse. He talked about Robert Morse a lot. And so I went and found his videos and I started learning from him. And then I also learned about John Kohler. So it was really John Kohler, Dan McDonald, and Dr. Robert Morse who were my initial entryway into the raw vegan lifestyle. And that's where I really built my foundation. I learned from Dr. Robert Morse, just like I love how he teaches in such a simplistic way to understand the body, and just how it works, and how he talks about raw foods. And then I learned, from John Kohler, just, the importance of leafy greens and all those sorts of things. And so, yeah, it was just a compilation of their teachings that got me started, more seriously in this path. But even before them, I heard a podcast or internet radio show, talking about juice fasting. And so for whatever reason, that really sparked my interest. And so I started looking into that, and I ended up deciding I was going to try it out. And I meant to just go for like a couple days, 2 or 3 days, and it lasted 10 days. So I went 10 days of just drinking fresh fruits and vegetable juices, and my negative self-talk got significantly better. I lost a bunch of weight. I felt more just light in my body. I wasn't so, bogged down with heavy foods. And so I basically thought to myself, if I feel this good eating, I mean, not even eating, but just consuming the juices of raw fruits and vegetables, I wasn't consuming the heavy protein diet that I was told I needed to in order to build muscle and keep my hair and all those other things. So I just felt amazing. And so from there, I started watching a ton more documentaries. And I kind of got into the rabbit hole of like government corruption and the revolving door between the food industry and government policies and things like that, and chemicals put into our water. And so there was like a bunch of different angles that were pushing me towards a more natural lifestyle. And so, yeah, between the documentaries and just other research that I was doing, I was like, well, seems plants are a probable beneficial way to go. And so I started just slowly incorporating more raw foods into my diet. And I didn't even really intentionally become like a raw foodist. It was just an organic transition over about a year, where I started out just eating fruit for breakfast. So I did that for a while, and I was liking it. And so then eventually I started having like a salad at work on my break for lunch. Luckily, my work had a buffet or just a salad bar, I guess. So I could go over there, get a salad, and so I started doing that for a while. So I was having fruit for breakfast, then I had salad for lunch, and then I just kind of realized, dang, I'm almost vegan, and I didn't even necessarily know what vegan was at the time. I didn't understand what the term vegan was.
That's really interesting. You had that awareness just to, just making these changes slowly kind of thing. And was that from what you'd learned with the juice fast maybe, or like, was it something else? You just started to become more aware of your health and your body and stuff?
Yeah, I think so. The juice fast really, it was amazing because growing up, I went to church and all that stuff, but I was never a spiritual person. I never had a spiritual connection, a true spiritual connection. And it wasn't until I got into the juice fast and subsequently the just consuming more fresh fruits and vegetables, that for whatever reason, I started to build this intimate connection spiritually and really with myself, and just having a connection with my environment and with God and with just my intuition. And so it just organically kind of developed, and I was more in tune with how my body felt when I would do certain things. And that's what got me away from alcohol and, a lot of other toxic habits that I had. So yeah, the fruits and vegetables really just lit something inside of me that, sparked my spiritual interest and my intuition where, I just started to feel like raw fruits and vegetables were truly the way that we were supposed to eat. And just logically, like I just started thinking about it, and it's like, well, I mean, how did people eat, all this meat and eggs and dairy products in the past when we didn't have these massive farms
Yeah.
and factories and microwaves and stoves and all this stuff? So yeah, it was just a gradual learning process and enlightenment, I suppose. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
Really cool. And I like, I think a lot of people sort of jump into it a little bit too enthusiastically. I like the, I like to hear that what you really did was kind of a gradual transition without really thinking about it. You just kind of went along with gradually improving your diet, which to me is really someone that's serious about actually changing their lifestyle completely. Makes
Yeah.
actually a slower transition than someone who says, I'm doing 30 days of this or that, and then I'm going to keep it going after that. And they often don't. And I always feel like they didn't really have the intention to truly change their diet. And the same with fasting. I feel like,
Yep.
so I think fasting is the one that I see people 20-day fast, 30-day fast, and they think they're going to come out at the end of this, all of their bad habits gone, and it rarely works for people. And it's almost like they're not really serious about the fact that they have to really make changes to their lifestyle totally to get the health impact they want.
Yeah.
So I like your approach. I like how you did that.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree 100% with the fasting thing. People are always. It seems they've been trained to look for shortcuts and
Right.
ways around putting in actual effort. It comes down to intention. And are you truly interested in in finding a sustainable way to live, or are you just looking to like, I know a lot of people that do just a juice fast, and then they just go back to living their previous lifestyle, and then they run into the same issues. And so it's a mindset and it's intention, and it's just about finding something that's sustainable and something that you can live on long term, that's going to it's going to give you sustenance, and it's going to promote natural detoxification that your body is just going to do automatically, without getting in its way. So that's what I really love about the raw vegan lifestyle, is that it's just a naturally, it gives your body everything it needs to build when it needs to and cleanse when it needs to,
Very cool. Yeah. Who did you learn? I mean, you came across Dan McDonald. Would you say he's the main person you kind of learn from, like an online mentor, or did you have other teachers? Did you read books? Did you attend things? What was your learning journey like?
Yeah. Dan McDonald was initially like my main inspiration. And I was taking a lot of what he was doing and implementing it into my lifestyle. And then, like I said, Dr. Morse, with detox, I got into the herbs, the tinctures and things like that for a while. And I love Dr. Morse's message and everything. I kind of got away from the tinctures more. I still think that herbs are, potentially a very helpful thing for people in their healing and things like that. And I just prefer fresh herbs now. So adding fresh herbs to my salads and things like that, or to juices, rather than tincturing them. But I went through like the whole program. I did the herbs, and I just don't personally know if it was the herbs that helped me to heal so much, or if it was just the diet. So I wasn't as comfortable until I knew for sure that it was the herbs to use those when I coach people and things like that. So if somebody is interested in those things, I'll definitely work with them with it. But I kind of promote whole foods and fresh herbs and things like that, just because that's what I know best. And I actually thought about becoming an herbalist back in the day, because I was really interested in it, and I was just so like just enamored by herbs. But now it's kind of just developed into a fresh herb type thing. And then John Kohler, John, I love John's videos because he does teach a lot about greens, but also just the diet in general. And he's been doing this for so long that he just shares so much practical information for people. But then I even branched out further. Of course, I'm not just I like to learn from various different sources. I read 80-10-10. And I watched a lot of, Woodstock Fruit Festival videos. I started getting inspired by people from there. Don Bennett was somebody that I was, listening to. Tanny Raw, Dr. Rick and Karen Dina. So
yes,
even
we found a lot of long-term, like,
right,
especially fruit-based raw vegans. Yeah.
right, exactly. And then even like right now, so even back then I was listening to, I would try and learn from like Gabriel Cousins and some of the people that aren't necessarily practicing high fruit, they're more high fat. And I experimented with different variations of macronutrient ratios. And I just personally found that high fruit and high carb was way better than any of the other styles of doing it, just energy wise and my skin. If I eat too much fat, I start to get breakouts on my skin, and my energy isn't so good. So I'm interested in learning from everybody, that's promoting whatever style of raw veganism. I kind of go by the notion that there's no one person that I agree with 100% of what they say. I kind of go into it with just the understanding that you're pretty much going to have, it's like the 80-20 rule, where you're going to agree up to 80% of what a teacher or a guru is going to tell you. And then there's going to be about 20% of what they say that just doesn't resonate, and you just don't really incorporate into what you're doing. So
and sometimes that might not even be how they talk about the diet. It might be just different, like, things on the edge, not the really important things, but you might just not agree with, as you're saying, with everything that they're
right
interested in.
Right. And that's the thing where I think people
like some guys like to go to the conspiracy theory side of things a little bit too much, and some like there's different ways that people go around this.
Right. And I think people do themselves a disservice when they completely throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. If somebody says something that they don't agree with, they just stop listening to them completely, where they may have some beneficial information that they're sharing that you could incorporate. But you just have to use discernment and your intuition to determine what they're saying that really resonates with you and what you believe is worthy of incorporating. And then you just understand that everybody's going to have different opinions, and you just leave that out. You leave that piece of information out and move forward from there. But I've tried to do my best to be understanding that that's how it is, and not just like pigeon my hole into listening to people that reinforce what I already believe.
Yeah, I mean, and you've got your own unique perspective on this, obviously, and people are learning from you. I think that I've told you about that with this podcast, I interview people that I don't necessarily agree with in many ways,
Right.
but I like to hear what they're saying. And I always think that I've always been so fascinated by the raw food movement and the history of it and the different people. And um, I love to go and look at like talks or videos or things from people that are in to do something totally different, just to see even how they inspire people or how they capture people's attention or how they talk about health or how they talk how all of that is great. I think to hear, like, people will talk about David Wolf and they don't like when I was starting to watch raw food stuff, a lot of people were saying, oh, David Wolf, scam artist and all stuff and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
You can go back and look at stuff, videos that he made, that weren't like that at all or were just very inspirational, or
Yep.
and the funny thing is there's people that don't like Robert Morse, for example, and they'll say he's all about herbs, right?
Right.
And I went to see Robert Morse speak in Florida just by kind of coincidence. I was there at the time he was giving a talk.
Okay.
He didn't speak about herbs at all for like an
Yeah.
hour. He just
Yeah.
talked about fruit and health and never mentioned herbs. So
Yep.
it's I really appreciate the whole thing. Like, anyone who's doing something to try and get people to improve their health, and I always think that the people who are outside of this don't really appreciate seeing everyone arguing with each other. Like, it's better, like, if someone gets you to make this one small change, like
Yep.
the fact that you started eating fruit for breakfast, or these little things, like anything that a person starts to do as a result of someone, is a good thing and sets them in the right direction, I think,
Yeah. 100%. And you saying just when you were talking, actually, like Durian Ryder was somebody that I learned a lot from in the early days.
Yeah, 100%, me too.
Yeah, yeah, and him and Freely, I learned a lot from. Again, I found out about them, I think, through Woodstock Fruit Festival videos. And yeah, David Wolf I listened to as well. So yeah,
I,
and I still implement, a lot of things that I learned from them today, even though they're not really necessarily. At least Durian Ryder doesn't seem like he's on this path anymore as much,
yeah.
but
During, like, he was one of my main, because I used to Google raw food and I came across David Wolf first, I think.
okay,
But then I came across Durian Rider's video about David Wolf, which kind of went viral, and then I got into Durian Rider, um, and I actually found Woodstock probably through him.
okay,
But I'm the same as you. Like, I learned a lot from him, and I was watching him a lot, and so he was like my online mentor from afar at that point. And
yeah.
um, yeah, and I've interviewed him on this podcast as well. So
Oh, really? I haven't seen
yeah.
that one. I'm gonna have to go look for that one.
And I did meet him at Woodstock, and I did really enjoy his company, and I thought he was a genuinely good person. For what that's worth, I don't know, but
Yeah,
that was my experience with him. That's what I saw in terms of how he acted with people, and he was an inspiration for a lot of people. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to, I think people develop their own perception of people just based on what they see online, and you really get a different picture when you meet them in person, and so I think, yeah, it's hard to really know unless you actually meet them.
so getting back to kind of your story, a lot of people struggle with making the commitment, whether it's changing from vegan, cutting out cheese and all these things, or going raw, or cutting out high fat, or whatever it is. Have you had any struggles along the way, um, like with back and forth, kind of going back and forth trying to make changes, or how has it been for you, and how have you dealt with food cravings and all these kind of things?
Yeah, so cravings, honestly, I don't know if it's due to, and this is one of the things where I don't know if it's because I, utilize the herbal tinctures early in my transition, or if it's from the bit of fasting that I do, or what. But cravings have never been a significant issue for me. Um, I I haven't had any issues where, like, if I eat something like potatoes or anything like that, it's not like I don't need to continue eating them. I know some people struggle with that. I could have a meal of cooked food right now, and tomorrow going forward, I wouldn't have any problems not, So yeah, I don't know what necessarily was the cause for that, or if it's just my personality or what, but yeah. Um, for people though that do, it's probably better to stay away from those things. But for me, to make this lifestyle sustainable, I have done my best to not be super dogmatic about raw is law, or sticking to 100% raw, because honestly I think that's one of the things that have helped me to sustain this lifestyle for the last decade. So I will have some cooked food here and there, just because I live in Minnesota, and I know that I have been raw here over the winters, and for long periods of time. But over time, I just kind of got into the situation where it was getting less enjoyable to stick to 100% raw, with the low quality fruits and the varied, or the minimal selection of different fruits. I'm like eating only bananas and apples, and that, for me, that just wasn't that enjoyable. And so in the winters here, sometimes I will incorporate some vegetable soups, or even some potatoes, sweet potatoes, in with my salads. If I do eat cooked food, it's always with a massive raw salad. I almost never have just a fully cooked meal. That does not digest well for me, and it just doesn't make me feel good. My energy goes way down and things like that. So for me, the big massive salads have, I think, probably been one of those things that have helped me to avoid cravings and avoid addictive behaviors, because it gives me a lot of the minerals, and it gives me a lot of the different phytochemicals and things like that, the fiber to benefit my microbiome. And yeah, it's just something where I would say that I've sustained like 95+% of the food that I eat is raw over the last 10 years. But I give myself a little wiggle room based on the season, based on what's available, and things like that. So I teach people that you don't necessarily have to be 100% raw, because that, especially unless you're living in like Costa Rica or a tropical place. For me, I think I've seen too many people that fall off the wagon completely, because they thought that if they weren't eating 100% raw, then they're a failure. And so I just teach people to be practical. I use the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps are my little thing that I teach people. It's, if you want to sustain this diet and lifestyle, you got to be patient with yourself. Most people aren't going to be able to go 100% raw overnight and sustain it for their life. You got to be patient with yourself. Your body's going to go through changes. You don't need to just do a 2-week water fast and then you're set. You just got to be patient. You got to let the healing happen as it's going to happen. Let your body go through the changes it's going to go through. Your taste buds are going to adjust. And so don't rush things, and just be patient. The second one is to be practical. And that's the big thing I see people not necessarily following and practicing, is practicality. They see, somebody in Costa Rica or South Florida, living it up on mangoes and papayas, like picked right from their yard or something. And people like me in Minnesota, we got like apples, and apples are great. I love apples, but I'm not a fan of like mono mealing apples, on a regular basis. So
Do you not get like persimmons in the winter, citrus fruit, stuff like that in Minnesota?
no, we don't get any of that. I think we get maybe, well, we get a lot of berries, berries grow here, apples grow here, maybe pears. And
Do you ever in Minnesota, can you ever pick what's it called again? Pawpaw? Do you have any pawpaw fruit there?
Mike Vlacity introduced me to those. I've never had one. I ran into him at the Chicago
Potluck?
Vegan Mania.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. I ran into him there. That was the first time I've actually met him. And yeah, he had a couple pawpaws with him, but he said he was bringing it to a friend, so I couldn't try one.
Oh no.
I told him next time I run into him that I gotta have one. But no, he had such like high praise to say about them. Sounds like they're really, really delicious. And
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I went to a potluck with him in Chicago, a raw potluck thing. I stayed with him for a few days one time.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good friends.
Cool.
Footballs are nice. So on your raw, so on a typical day that you stay raw, what would that day look like? And maybe in the ideal time or climate of year for you, and all that kind of stuff. And what's in your big salad? I think that'd be good to know.
Yeah. So a typical day for me, when I'm raw, which is most of the time, I'll have a big smoothie for breakfast. That's almost always my breakfast is a big smoothie. Usually around, I don't know, 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, sometimes later. People ask if I fast or intermittent fast. I just kind of, I start eating in the day when I feel like I'm hungry. And that usually comes out around about 10 o'clock or 10:30 or 11. And so, yeah, big smoothie with, a bunch of bananas, some berries, some greens. I like to put in a teaspoon or two of chia seeds or flax seeds. And then maybe like an herb like cilantro or something like that. So that's my breakfast, and that honestly lasts me a good 4 hours at least. And then for lunch, I will typically have another like fruit meal. So like some oranges. So we have oranges here in our grocery stores. Obviously, we don't grow them though. But yeah. So I'll have like now. Recently, this is what I've been eating. So I'll have like 5 navel oranges or caracara oranges. And then I've gotten really big into sprouting now. So I've been having like a big sprout salad with my fruit meal. Or sometimes I'll just have a fruit meal, but lately I've been incorporating some more sprouts. And so I'll do that. I've been really getting into like pea sprouts and lentil sprouts. I tried those years ago when I first got into this lifestyle, and it never worked out. But now, for some reason, I don't know if it was the source of where I was getting those seeds, but yeah. So sprouts and some fruit, and then for dinner, which is usually around, I try and do it around like 5 or 6 o'clock, will be this massive salad. And I just wrote a little ebook on how I make my salads and how people can learn how to make their own salads in a way that's, it constitutes a meal. I think most people have a salad of like 100 calories and like it's probably 70% fat. And, it's just like not something that's gonna give them that satiation, that satisfaction, of making them feel like they actually ate a meal. And so what I put in there.
Yeah, was that in the raw vegan bundle?
Yes. Yeah. So if people got the bundle, yep. I titled it "The Art of Salad Mastery."
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's on the website as well, myrawintuition.com.
Yep. They can get it there.
Excellent.
Yep.
Very cool.
So there's 5 pillars, and so I'll give away the blueprint that's in the book. So even if they don't want to buy the book, they can understand what the I call it five. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so
You don't have to give up your secrets, but yeah, sure.
no, it's fine. I was doing it all on the Instagram lives anyways. I like to put it out there. I've learned from Gary Vee that you just put out your best stuff, and people that resonate with you are gonna be drawn and support you. So
Yeah, I like that. I like that philosophy. It feels almost hard to do it sometimes, but yeah, it seems
does.
right.
Yeah, yeah. So there's five pillars or five criteria that I use. And the reason I came up with this is for that very reason. Whenever I would either like help somebody with this lifestyle, or somebody would see me eat a salad and they would ask me about this lifestyle, there would always, most of the time, they would have negative things to say about salads, and they would talk about salads as if they were just like they didn't like them. And so I was trying to figure out, like, why do I like salad? Like, why are salads for me so satisfying? And so I kind of started analyzing it and looking at how I kind of built mine. And
I love it.
Yeah, and the obvious
process.
right. The most obvious one was the size of the salad. I mean, people eat such tiny salads, it's embarrassing. It's like, of course you're not going to feel satisfied after you eat like a few leaves of kale or a few leaves of iceberg and a few tomatoes. Like, that's probably not going to make you feel satisfied, and you're probably going to start having cravings because you're hungry again, and that always leads to bad things. So
yeah,
the first, yeah,
if anyone watching, if you're eating those little salads, we look down on that. That's baby stuff. That's no good. We're gonna shame you if we ever meet you. We're gonna tell you that's not good enough.
exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah, so 16 ounces or 1 pound of leafy greens is the foundation of my salads. It sounds like a lot, and for a lot of people it might be, but I had to actually buy a food scale after I made this book, because I knew my salads are over a pound, but I didn't actually know how much they were.
Right.
So I bought a food scale and I weighed it out, and yeah, it's my salads usually are about between like 1.25 pounds to 1.5 pounds of just leafy greens. So that's before I put in everything else. So it's like a few leaves of kale, a head or two of romaine, and like a cup of chopped up like red cabbage. That right there is well over a pound. So if you chop it up really fine, it's not even that, it's not even that much really, especially for like raw foodists. But honestly, I see a lot of raw foodists that don't eat big enough salads as well, and especially people that I've seen online, especially in the earlier days when I followed more new people that were like kind of newbies into the lifestyle, and I was following them, and I mean almost all of them are no longer even in the lifestyle, because they just didn't, they either only ate fruit, which I mean I love eating fruit, but I just don't see many people succeed long term eating just fruit. They don't really have much balance in the way that they're eating, and so that was something that I noticed just as the years went by. And the majority of the long-term raw vegans, at least that I watch and that I learn from, they incorporate a lot of leafy greens into their diet. And so that was just one of the main staples that I learned. So that's why 1 pound of leafy greens is my foundational staple in my salads. Second pillar is to have at least one cruciferous leafy green. Now, I recommend having multiple different leafy greens in the salad, but just because, like kale or collards or bok choy, but especially like the darker leafy greens just have more calories in them, and they're like, just for me, they're just so much more like filling. And so kale's like triple the calorie density of like romaine or lettuce. So that's just another way to kind of boost the calorie content, and just give you some of that, like kale's like the meat. It's like the meat of my new lifestyle. It's just that heavy green. Some people might not digest it that well, so chop it really well, or massage it, and there's different things you can do to make it more digestible. Or if you don't like kale, there's other, like bok choy is a much more easily digestible leafy green. So I just think on top of that, there's the nutritional benefits from cruciferous vegetables, the isothiocyanates, all the things that the plant-based doctors get excited about. And so I think those things they're interesting. I enjoy getting into the nutrition science and learning some of those things. But I always come back to just the foundations and just common sense, But yeah, so a pound of greens, at least one, have at least a little bit of cruciferous vegetable leafy green in there, and then have at least one like fresh leafy green herb. So like cilantro or parsley or dill or basil, that's just gonna really boost the flavor, and it's just gives it such a nice effect. And so the herbs, I think, are so great to have in your salads. The next one is to have at least 5 different colors in your salad. So that's going to be the polyphenols, the antioxidants, each different color that we're consuming. It's just like a different spectrum of light from the sun, and it has a different benefit to the body. So it's good for the microbiome. It's good for the brain. All the different colors. That's it's why we have color vision, so that we can pick out these fresh fruits and vegetables in our environment if we were out living in nature. Or I guess if you go into the produce section, you want to pick out those nice brightly colored foods, assuming they're not artificially colored. But the natural colors are what we want to be putting into the body to really liven us up. And then the last one is to have a whole food dressing. So avoid the oils, avoid, other types of things like that. And just, whether it's, avocado and lemon juice, or if it's blended up, seed or nut-based dressing, those are my personal favorites. And those are in the book. I put seven seed-based dressings in the book for people to use. And then I encourage people to take the 7-day 5-star salad challenge. So do 7 days of eating a salad like this and just see how you feel. And I really think that people will start to develop that taste and that just understanding what it takes to make a satisfactory salad.
That's amazing. What a great little pillars there. Fantastic.
Thank you.
So awesome. We get a good idea of how you eat and everything. Let me ask you, what's your feelings about supplements?
Yeah, supplements. Not a huge fan of them, but I take B12. So I went like 7 years or something like that without taking any supplements at all. Other than I was really big in the very, very early days. I was really big into like green powders and things like that. I was trying like every different green powder that was at the health food store, and actually protein powders really early. But I kind of faded off, got away from all that. And, I like to get everything that I possibly can just from Whole Foods. But I understand that, so after 7 years, I finally did a blood test because I wanted to see where I was at. Because I was like, I've been eating this way for a long time. And I think it was 7 years. It was several years anyways. And I got my blood test and everything was perfect except for my B12, which was like super low. It was like 80 something. So in the reference range, I think 150 was the bottom. So I was like, oh, well, okay, maybe that's not the best idea. So I started supplementing B12. And so that's really the only supplement that I take. I do still take like green powders here and there, just for fun, just for, to experiment. But other than that, I don't personally take any, even though I live in Minnesota where the sunshine isn't the greatest. I'm still on the fence about vitamin D3 supplementation. I did buy it one time, but I never used it. And so, um, yeah, I'm on the fence about that.
The
But
B12,
otherwise, I don't take any.
did you experience any difference after the B12, and did you retest again? Has it gone up? Like, where are you at with that?
Yeah, so no, I haven't retested, which I do need to. I plan on doing that here eventually. Um, and I honestly don't know that I've noticed any significant difference from taking the supplement. So I'll be interested to see where my levels are at. My last blood test was in late 2018, so it's been a few years now. I ended up doing two blood tests. I did one in 2017 and one in 2018. And and the thing, I was just so like, it was just so rewarding, I guess, to make videos about it. Where my protein was like at the very top of the reference range.
Oh wow!
So was my iron. My iron, the second blood test I did, I was past the reference. I was above the top of the reference range for iron. So it's just funny to listen to these anti-vegan people out there on YouTube. Like, I mean, it's just nonsense.
I've seen that with iron. I've seen a few people have iron that was really super high, and
yeah,
they've got no meat in their diet, no, like, totally raw vegan or vegan or whatever. Yeah,
right.
it's interesting.
Yeah, and then I this last blood test that I did, I did like extra things on, and this is why I kind of haven't done one since, is because it was like $1,100 to have this blood test done. And I was like, holy cow. And that's like with insurance and all that. And so I was just like really put off by the amount that it costs, even though, I mean, I'm also like, I think blood tests can be useful, but also I think people can get a little too fixated on
Right.
like testing and things like that. But yeah, I did my vitamin, or my omega-3s. I did that ratio. That came out really good. And then I did like some heavy metals. I wanted to see like what my heavy metals were at. I did like arsenic, and I did mercury, and I did a couple others, but they all came back. Essentially, it said less than 1. So I hope that's good. I did aluminum. That was low.
Pretty cool.
And then I also did.
I guess your cholesterol was low and all that, obviously.
Oh yeah, cholesterol. Yeah, I think my cholesterol, I think, was like 140 or something like that. So, and then selenium. I want to check some of those minerals, although I didn't do iodine, which I wish I would have done iodine. So I want to do that in my next one. My selenium and my zinc were actually towards the lower end of the reference range. So, again, whatever that means, the reference range, that's debatable, but it was towards the lower end for those. So I've been doing more, like I'll add like a Brazil nut to my daily salad dressing, and then a few more sea vegetables just in case. I don't know what my selenium or my iodine is, but yeah, I just kind of do I guess prophylactic dietary measures just in case. But yeah, everything else was great. It was just the B12, and my vitamin D was, I think it was 32, which isn't even a dietary hormone or vitamin, whatever. But yeah, so.
Well, it's, there's a funny thing with supplements. I think people think it's an easy solution, and that it's. I think people also think, well, if you just take more of something, that's good, or
Right.
that's fine, and it's not necessarily a good thing. And I think that I've seen people. I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen people go down this road with supplements where someone's convinced them that all of their issues are to do with some deficiency, and
Yep.
they start taking a supplement, then they take another, then they take another, then they get worried they're low in omegas, then they're low in this, and they become like, have all these concoctions, potions, and it's like people can go crazy with that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's true. Just one tip that I usually give people if they're concerned about their like omega-3s. You know, just eating a whole foods plant-based diet is going to give you a pretty good ratio just naturally of omega-3s to omega-6s. But because the same enzymes work on converting omega-3s and omega-6s into the longer chain fatty acids, that's why I put like chia or flax in my morning smoothie, so that I'm getting the omega-3s before I'm getting higher concentrations if I'm going to have omega-6s. And that way my body has a chance to convert those omega-3s before the addition of those omega-6s come in, because most people have, you know, even if they're taking in a good amount of both, if the the enzymes start to get fixated on those omega-6s, and it kind of crowds out the omega-3s, mostly because people are eating so many omega-6s, it just kind of overwhelms the,
Yeah.
just kind of, you know,
just give me one moment. Just give me one moment, Matt. Sorry, everyone. We just had a little delay there. Yeah, cool, excellent. So yeah, let me ask you, outside of the diet and all that kind of stuff, what are the kind of key things that you're focusing on health-wise? It looks like you maybe work out, I don't know, but what are the other things that you focus on?
Yeah, I definitely work out. I mean, and when I say that, I mean, it's not, I don't go to the gym. I just, it's essentially, I feel the best when I start my day pretty much with some exercise, and I pretty much just do body weight exercise, and then I have like a few dumbbells that I'll do some arm work with, some bicep work. So I start my day. I have a routine, and so I always wake up, and so some of the main things that I think, besides diet, which I think people focus too much on, and they put too much emphasis and expectation on diet to fix all their problems, and then they ignore all the other holistic, you know, encompassing factors that go into health and healing and all that stuff. So sleeping, I try and do my best to get enough sleep, which for me feels best like 7 or 8 hours. And I try to get to bed early. I try to finish eating by like 6 at the latest. Doesn't always happen, especially if I'm doing like a live where I'm showing people how to make 5-star salads or something like that. Then I usually end up eating later because it just takes more time. But ideally, I try and finish eating by like 6 o'clock. Let's see, I try to get out in nature. I try and get fresh air. You know, exercise again is something I think is really important that not enough people do, especially now in this environment that we're in with everything that's going on. Everybody, like me personally, my day job, I work from home. You know, so I pretty much just stay home, you know, and I think most people are just in their homes now, like 95% of the time. So I think it's important to get out of your house, go for a walk, go for a hike or a jog or something. Sweat. I think sweating is really important, and that's really part of my morning routine. So I'll kind of get into how I kind of go through my morning, to give people an idea of what that looks like. So I wake up, I always have a bowel movement right away when I wake up. So I think it's important. I call that emptying the pipes. I think everybody should empty the pipes when they wake up, if their body is, you know, is urging them to. So that's both the lower pipes and the upper pipes. I like to gently, you know, blow my nose in case there's any congestion in there from the night before. You know, empty the bladder, empty the bowels, and then so you got that nice clean flow of energy that can go through you, and you're allowing the rest of your food and your intestines to keep moving along. Then I will do some skin brushing. I like to open up the pores and get the blood flowing and the lymph flowing. So I do just a really brief full body skin brush. Then I do some stretching, and I try and fit all this into like within 30 to 45 minutes. So it's like a 30 to 45 minute routine. And when I try and help people with this, you can really, you can tailor it to however long or short you want to do it. So whatever is more sustainable for you, just do it however works for your lifestyle. So I clean the pipes, I open up pores, and then I will do some stretching to kind of even further help the flow of blood and lymph. And then I will go into my office and I will do some breath work. So I actually did a 26-day water fast at the end of last year. And that really it just, and I'm not promoting anybody go and do a 26-day water fast, but this is what, it really just opened my eyes to the importance of breathing and breath work, and how important how we breathe is, because that's been one of my issues, I think, my whole life, especially growing up with asthma. I think I was, with that condition, I just learned to breathe improperly, take shallow breaths and things like that. And so breath work is something that I've really gotten into over the last like 6 months, and I've done some reading on it, and I'm just really in the beginning stages of learning more about it. But it's been really nice, and it's helped with just my mental state for sure, and even my workouts have improved because of it. So so then I do some breath work, and then I drink like 30 to 32 ounces of distilled water to kind of flush the system. And then I will do like a little bit of exercise. So I'll do push-ups, pull-ups, work with the dumbbells. I'll do planks, things like that. So just home exercises to get my body sweating, and just to get everything flowing. And that's what makes me feel the best. So exercise in the morning is really important to me. And I think it's just a good way to, get everything flowing and get you in the right mindset for the rest of the day. So there's that. And like I said, it's like the, all of the kind of common things that we hear for how to be healthy, get outside, get sunlight, get fresh air, get, good sleep, have good relationships, try and limit your stress or manage it as best you can with things like breath work and, a good diet and exercise and things like that. So it's really basic, to be honest. Like there's no, in my mind that I'm aware of, there's no magic bullet to improving health. It's just a compilation of all those things and trying to be consistent with it. And yeah.
Very cool. What are you coach people and help people, and what are the mistakes that you see people make?
In terms of just overall lifestyle or diet wise, or
I suppose when they're trying to change their lifestyle, what mistakes are people making that are holding them back, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, a few would definitely be one, the salads. That's another, reason why I created the book, was to teach people how, because most people that come to me are like actually a lot of people that I've had for coaching clients have actually been on pretty good diets, like whole foods. They've been doing it for a little while, and it's really just the amount of greens that they're eating a lot of times it's just not enough. So that's one of the big things that I always love to promote, and I've actually gotten into promoting it more over the last year or two, is just greens. Eat more greens, and just make sure you're eating enough, and that's one of the biggest things. The other thing is just relying too much, expecting too much from the diet. Well, the diet is extremely important, and it's like the core of what's gonna give us overall well-being. It's not everything, and so you have to incorporate a positive environment. You have to have positive relationships. A lot of people have, unfortunately, I hear about a lot of people that just struggle with toxic relationships with people, especially because of their desire to find a healthier diet and a healthier lifestyle. And they allow that to kind of stick around. So it's really just developing your boundaries and having respect for yourself, and understanding that if you have a relationship where somebody is not supportive, or being negative towards you for trying to be healthy, it's not that you have to cut those people out of your life completely, but it's just distance, create some distance in there where you're comfortable, and you have less stress and anxiety coming from that direction, and just really build a healthy mindset. The mindset is another thing that I think people focus too little on, and I think that's what it causes people down. It doesn't allow them to make it a sustainable way of life, because they've changed the way that they eat for a short period of time, but they haven't changed the way that they think. And so when you're stuck in old thought patterns, it can sometimes make it difficult to make lasting change. And that's why I really encourage people to watch motivational videos. That's been a big part of my transformation. I got really big into motivational videos, not necessarily about diet or anything like that, but just about self-development and positive mindset, and things like that. I've literally like Les Brown, Tony Robbins,
Sure.
People like that.
Personal development legends.
Yes, yeah, all of those guys were a huge influence on me, especially in the earlier days. I would go days just like almost constantly listening to their videos, and just soaking in that sort of mindset and that sort of mentality. And so I think that also is a big part of what has given me just the endurance and the fortitude to stick with the diet, even though for me personally, it's been fairly comfortable to stick with this diet. It's not like it's been a struggle or anything for me, but a lot of people it is. And I think that's part of why, because they've built up negative thought patterns from the sick culture that we live in. It's marketing, and the way that a lot of people are brought up just doesn't instill a good amount of self-confidence and self-worth. So I think building those things is really going to be a positive to sustaining the dietary side of things as well. So yeah, I mean, those are kind of the main things I see, is people just not eating enough leafy greens, having an unbalanced diet and even lifestyle, trying to focus on the whole lifestyle rather than just diet, and then building up your mental aspect of it, having good influences in your life, whether that's in person or online, people and videos that make you feel good about yourself and that inspire you and build up your drive to be the best that you can be.
Awesome. So Matt, where can people follow you, learn more about you, and maybe inquire about services, products, and things like that that you have available to them?
Yeah, so my website is myrawintuition.com. You can also find me on YouTube, which is Raw Intuition, and Instagram is Raw Intuition. I'm on other platforms, but not nearly as much as Instagram and YouTube. So those would probably be the best places, and my website. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to, help people. My big thing is making things practical for people. Finding a way to implement more raw foods into your diet in a way that's gonna last for the long term and hopefully for the rest of your life. And so, yeah, I'm happy to connect with people if they want to reach out.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Matt, for joining us today. And as Matt was saying, Raw Intuition on Instagram, YouTube, and myrawintuition.com. And if you want to keep on following the Love Fruit podcast, you can follow the podcast on YouTube. You can go to the UK Fruit Fest YouTube channel to follow the episodes there. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and really anywhere that there's a podcast platform out there. Go to fruitfest.co.uk if you want to sign up for our newsletter and continue to get updates about future podcasts and other things that we're doing. And the UK Fruit Fest is going to take place this year from 29th of July to the 6th of August. And we look forward to giving some more information about that when we've got that together. But thank you, Matt, for joining us today. And to leave us, what would be your kind of advice, words of wisdom for people that are starting off?
Yeah, my pleasure to be here. Honestly, thank you for inviting me. What I would say is kind of, just my overall message to most people is be patient. It kind of goes back to the 3 Ps. You just got to be patient with yourself. Let the process unfold. Don't rush it. And just have fun with learning about diet and lifestyle. Get your information from various sources and kind of build your own opinion and way of making it work. But really focus, in my opinion, it's good to focus on people that have been doing it for a long time and that have the experience and the knowledge from many years. I've been doing it for 10 years, but there's people out there that have like John Kohler, who have been doing it for I think 25 years now or something, and Doug Graham and all those people out there that are sharing this information with people and just helping them understand it better. So yeah, but again, just be patient and be practical with how you're implementing it. You don't necessarily have to 100% mimic somebody else's diet and lifestyle that's probably living somewhere that is completely different than your environment. So yeah, just be practical and be patient with yourself.
Thanks very much, and we appreciate you all for watching this episode of the Love Fruit podcast. And you can, as I say, you can follow us all over. Please give us a comment or a like or a rating or whatever you can do to help us and we really appreciate all the people that have messaged us and said that they've watched lots of the episodes and they're really enjoying it. Thank you very much. Really love the feedback as well. You can send an email to info@fruitfest.co.uk if you want to send us any feedback. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all in the next episode of the Love Fruit podcast. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.